I was thinking of planning my own death, but I got hungry and ate tteokbokki. These are the words of South Korean writer Baek Se-hee. Well, she not only ate tteokbokki, that irresistible chewy rice cake dish glazed with a sweet and spicy sauce, but went on to write two best-selling books about her psychiatric treatment for her persistent depressive disorder, also known as dysthymia. I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki was recommended by none other than South Korean boy band BTS leader Kim Namjoon, also known as RM, and has pretty much got the whole book world talking. Now, the numbers don't lie. Together with its newly released sequel, I Want to Die, But I Still Want to Eat Tteokbokki, the books have spent a total of 99 weeks on the Straits Times bestsellers list. Needless to say, readers in Singapore are hungry to talk about mental health, burnout, wanting to quit their jobs, therapy, and tteokbokki. So what is the buzz about? I'm Anton Hur, a journalist who writes about books and the arts for the Straits Times, and here to talk tteokbokki and therapy with me are none other than two famous tteokbokki lovers who have flown into Singapore from South Korea, the book's author Baek Se-hee and translator Anton Hur, who has, by the way, translated an International Booker shortlisted book, Cursed Bunny, by Bora Chong, and the BTS memoir Beyond the Story. Now, it's quite rare to hear of South Korean books spending close to 100 weeks on the Singapore bestsellers list. How does it feel to know that Singaporean readers are picking up this book? Anton?
I think it's really just wonderful that a readership like the one that you have in Singapore, who are very, very passionate about books, are so interested in this book, which really is, I feel like it's a very, very honest and very personal memoir. But the fact that it has such a universal resonance is extremely moving, especially in a place like Singapore, where you have this impression of Singapore being a very prosperous and happy country. And yet there must be some kind of undercurrent of anxiety and maybe even depression that Singaporean readers are finding resonance with. So it's very moving to see how underneath all of our perfection, and we're both very successful countries, underneath our perfection and all of our success, that we can still come together with these anxieties and with these sort of worries that we have in common. And it's great that Se-hee, who's a great writer, managed to tap into these anxieties. It just takes a really talented writer to do that.
Thank you.
Se-hee, what about you? Did you ever dream that your book will become a bestseller in Singapore and around the world? 100 weeks on the Singapore bestseller list.
전혀요. 네, 그렇게 멋진 나라라고 생각했기 때문에 문화가 다를 거라고 생각했어요. 그래서 싱가포르에서 잘 될 거라고는 생각을 전혀 못했죠. 그런데 어제 첫 페스티벌에서 독자분들을 만나서 얘기를 좀 나눴는데 저와 정말 비슷하다. 뭐 외모에 관련한 것들, 그리고 그 경쟁에 대한 불안, 이런 문화들이 정말 비슷하더라고요. 그래서 이렇게 나라랑 인종 상관없이 공통적으로 우리가 겪고 있다는 사실에, 그러니까 베스트셀러가 된 건 기쁘지만 좀 상반되게 모순적으로는 마음 아픔을 같이 동시에 느꼈어요.
I heard that yesterday a lot of your readers came to talk to you, came to get you to sign the book as well. Have you been to many festivals around the world, and how has the response to this memoir been different at home in South Korea and as well as abroad?
영광스럽게도 코로나 때문에 코로나 영향도 있고 또 제 정신질환 상태 때문에 이번 페스티벌이 싱가포르 페스티벌이 처음입니다.
Singapore readers are lucky to have you on your first international stop of this tour. That's really great. But I also heard that both you and Anton, your translator for this book, have never met until this morning, actually. So what was it like, Anton, meeting a writer that you've spent so much time poring over her words? What is it like to meet Se-hee this morning?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's so wonderful to see her. I always got the impression that she's a little shy. And so I didn't want to bother her. So I tried not to bother her. But then we happened to DM on Instagram. So we've spoken, but not really until this morning. And she was just so sweet and kind. And I was incredibly excited to hear that she was coming to Singapore because, as she said, she doesn't travel much and she doesn't really get to go out much. And so I thought, like, wow, this is going to be such a great treat for Singaporean readers and because, Singapore has been just so supportive of her work and my work. And so I'm just so happy that we get to be here together and share this experience. And I'm just so honored to be her translator and to even be sitting next to her right now.
Me too. Thank you so much.
And what about yourself? You've never met Anton as well. So how was the interaction with him this morning?
감동적이었어요. 왜냐면 안톤의 인스타그램은 제가 몰래 많이 훔쳐봤거든요. 제가 보기에 그는 정말 유쾌하고 쾌활하고 밝고 친절하고 말도 너무 잘했어요. 그래서 저 대신 정말 번역자님께서 이렇게 제 책을 널리 알려주실 수 있을까? 이런 분이 계실까? 싶을 정도로 좀 신기하고 놀랍고 감사한 마음이었거든요. 그리고 그의 따스함을 또 느낀 게 제 책에 나와 있는 록상게이의 헝거라는 책을 제가 굉장히 좋아해요. 근데 무려 그 책 원어판 그 사인본을 저에게 편지와 함께 선물로 보내주신 거예요. 저는 그날 막 팔짝팔짝 뛰어다닐 정도로 너무 기뻤어요. 그래서 이걸 어떻게 보답해야 하지? 하는 부담감 반, 그리고 오늘 만나면 어떤 얘기를 해야 할까 너무 기대됐고, 그냥 오늘 뵙자마자 인사하는데 그냥 바로 웃음이 나왔고 너무 좋았어요.
What was this letter, Anton?
So I found the book at the Strand in New York City, and they have a lot of signed editions of things. And as soon as I saw this book, I thought, oh, I have to get this for her, because I was translating, I think, the second book, and she mentions in the second book about Roxane Gay, who I also respect. And so I was going to send it to her agent, and then her agent told me, oh, you can just send it to the author directly. So I thought, oh, okay. And so I thought, well, I can't just send her a book. That's a little weird to just receive a book with no letter. So I just wrote a letter just thanking her for really writing Tteokbokki. And because it just takes so much courage to write a book like this. It takes so much courage and also like incredible skill. And she has both and created this miracle of a book, really. And so I just felt so grateful to her always, but especially in that moment. And I wanted her to know how I felt about the book. And so I put that into the letter, and then I sent it with the Roxane Gay book. And yeah.
It's a beautiful relationship between translator and the writer. Have you met your other translators into other languages, Se-hee? I know this book has been translated into Bahasa Indonesia, Thai, as well as Chinese, Japanese, a lot of other languages. Have you had such an encounter with your other translators?
스페인 번역자분이 만나자고 메일을 주셨어요. 처음이었어요. 그래서 기쁜 마음에 딱 만났는데 너무 어린 친구였어요. 22살.
와우.
근데 너무 똑똑하고 저랑 말과 마음이 잘 통했어요. 그래서 친구가 됐고, 이번 여름에는 그 친구를 보러 바르셀로나로 여행도 갔었었고요. 그리고 제 책 2권, 스페인판 2권의 번역도 그 친구가 맡아줘서 너무 기쁩니다. 거짓말이 아니라 저희는 정말 친한 친구가 됐어요.
I've seen the Instagram. I think you posted on Instagram with her.
보셨죠?
Yeah, she's very cool. And it was just like these two cool young women just like hanging out in Barcelona. I was like, wow, I'm not that glamorous. But that was very, very cool to see. And yeah, I think she's a very, very talented translator. She must be.
Oh, no. Handsome.
Now we'll have a photo of both of you glamorously in Singapore.
좋아요.
But the interesting thing is that the book has brought you around the world, whether you've been there or not. So let's talk a bit about the book. It's about your diagnosis with dysthymia, which is a persistent depressive disorder. Take us back to that first moment when you decided to see a psychiatrist. What was going on in your mind?
일단 병명을 찾기가 굉장히 어려웠어요. 애매한 질환이거든요. 한국에서는 그래서 경도의 우울증이라고도 불러요. 그래서 그렇다 보니까 그냥 이게 일종의 내가 타고난 성향이나 기질이라고 생각을 해서 병이라고 생각하지 못하시는 분들이 굉장히 많거든요. 저 역시 그랬고. 근데 이게 감정의 폭이 변화가 되게 커요. 너무 많이 우울했다가 자살 사고도 들었다가 너무 많이 텐션이 높아졌다가 괜찮았다가 이렇게 막 반복을 했기 때문에 문제가 있다고 성인이 된 후에 확실하게 좀 느꼈거든요. 그리고 병명을 알게 됐을 때는 '와 정말 내 얘기다.'라는 느낌은 처음이었기 때문에 후련한 마음이 좀 들었어요. 근데 잘 사람들이 병원을 찾지 않다 보니 중증으로 발전해서 자살을 하거나 안 좋은 선택을 하시는 분들이 많다는 걸 들어서 그래서 이 병이 세상에 좀 알려졌으면 좋겠다는 생각을 했어요.
And subsequently, from what I understand, you started recording these sessions and turning it into a book. Now, I'm very curious because when we think about therapy, we might think of something like confidentiality, right? We trust our psychiatrists, our therapists, because they won't share it with someone else. So when you started sharing these conversations with your readers, did that change your relationship to your own therapy?
오히려 더 깊고 돈독해졌어요. 왜냐면 처음 상담할 때부터 저는 녹음을 해도 되냐고 선생님한테 물어보고 허락을 받았고요. 책을 쓰는 과정 내내 초고를 선생님한테 다 보여드렸어요. 근데 선생님은 굉장히 쿨해요. 쿨하고 "이거는 내 책이 아니라 너의 책이다."라고 말씀하셨거든요. 남자분이에요. 그래서 별로 신경을 안 쓰셨었는데 이렇게 많이 팔리다 보니까 그리고 쿨한데 인제 그분이 따스한 게 직접 자신의 글도 책에 실어 주셨잖아요.
음.
네. 그래서 이렇게 많이 팔리니까 선생님이 좀 많이 부끄러워하세요. 그래서 저와의 관계는 더 깊어졌지만 본인의 신상 정보는 더 꽁꽁 숨기고 계십니다.
But when you talk to your psychiatrist about this book, is your psychiatrist very happy that a lot of people are talking about this? You know, I've never heard this word dysthymia actually until this book. What's your psychiatrist's response?
선생님은 프로예요. 감정을 진짜 드러내지 않고요. 그래서 책에 대한 반응도 거의 하지 않으시거든요. 그런데 예전에 한국에서 베스트셀러가 되었을 때 한 번 근데 진료실에서 환자분들이 "이 책 얘기를 많이 하네요." 이렇게 민망해하시면서 얘기하신 적이 있어요.
So he has to kind of hide his feelings away from you as well.
네, 맞아요. 그걸 철저하게 지키시는 분입니다.
Anton, you've helped to introduce this book to the English reading audience. Have people come up to you to talk about the book since you're kind of the face of the English translation?
Yes, they people post about the book all the time, as you can imagine.
Yes.
And they tag me in them. They say many things that I myself felt while I was translating the book. This book helped me personally a lot, not just in terms of fame and all of that, but also in terms of just my own feelings and my own management of my own feelings. And there were so many helpful things in this book and also the second book. Every time that I would do a draft of the translation, I would discover a new thing that I could use in my own life. And that was very helpful for me. And I'm very grateful to Se-hee for that and also to her psychiatrist for that. And they would tag me and they would say things like, wow, this really helped me understand myself a bit better, myself a bit more. It helped me learn about myself and about my friends and my family members who also have perhaps some difficulty controlling their emotions and processing their emotions. Every time I did a draft of this book, I would feel better. Like I felt like I went through therapy. And it's really interesting to see readers have the same reaction. And that just attests to the power of Se-hee's writing.
Nice. Thank you.
Well, actually, there has been a boom in this kind of literature about therapy and mental health. And I can think about it in terms of like what's being translated out of Korea, for example. So the Singaporean translator and your mentee, Shanna Tan, she translated a book called Welcome to the Hunam Dom Bookshop, which is also about burnout and trying to fix that. I don't know what you think as a translator. What do you make of this moment that English language readers are very interested in the topic of mental health, especially from a Korean or maybe even East Asian perspective?
I think there's been a really interesting mental health discourse in Korea in the past few years, maybe the past 10 years even. For example, healing or worabel, work-life balance. Mental health is becoming a real focus within Korean society right now. And books like I Want to Die But I Want to Be Tteokbokki and the books that you mentioned that are the very great Singaporean translator, Shanna Tan, has translated. And it's just that Korea is going through a kind of interesting reckoning phase when it comes to all of the repercussions of our economic development and of our very dynamic political sphere. I'm being very politically careful here.
Sure.
Very dynamic political life in Korea that people are more focused on their mental health now than they used to be in the past. And I think a country like Singapore that is on a similar track of development as Korea, very rapid, very advanced. There actually aren't many countries that were middle income that become high income countries. This particular step, apparently, very few countries in the world have achieved, and Singapore and Korea happen to be two of them. And so I think we have a lot in common in terms of the fallout from that kind of advancement. So yeah, I think that's perhaps why Singapore is so interested in Korean stories that have to deal with mental health.
But what about the rest of the world? I know you told me before that nonfiction hardly gets translated for the English language market. Why has this book taken off in the US or the UK, for example?
I think Korea is very used to trauma, the narrative of trauma. There's the Sewol incident, there's the wars, there's Jeju, Sasam, 4/3 incident, there's the Gwangju incident. Korea is very used to historical national trauma. So we have a lot of narratives and we have a lot of just storytelling that come from trauma and come from difficulty and stress and that kind of thing. The rest of the world, of course, there's trauma everywhere in the world, but the rest of the world experienced a collective trauma during COVID-19. And so the timing of this book, when it came out in English, I think, maybe had to do with people feeling very differently emotionally through COVID, because it was a very isolating time and people had a lot of difficulty just connecting and reconnecting. And that kind of isolation breeds anxiety and breeds depression, I believe. And so perhaps some of that kind of like international timing went through it. And because the world continues to experience repeated global trauma, genocides, and the election of Donald Trump. I can say that. The election of Donald Trump II. I think because of all these like global traumas,
Right.
perhaps books like people keep turning to healing literature and keep turning to mental health literature. That's just my theory.
Because the book is so successful, Se-hee, has this book inspired many copycats in Korea who are trying to do something similar, you think?
정말 많아요. 일단 정신질환에 대한 책이 이 치료받는 사람들이 정말 날 것 그대로 말하는 책이 한국에 원래 없었거든요. 그런데 뭐 유튜브든 책이든 그런 다양한 정신질환에 관한 콘텐츠가 정말 많이 생겨났고, 또 재밌는 건 제 책을 패러디하는 책들도 되게 많이 나왔어요. 제 책이 좀 한국에서는 독창적이고 재밌다고 하거든요. 뭐 "죽고 싶지만 떡볶이는 먹고 싶어." 이게 모순적인 거잖아요. 그래서 뭐 "돈은 벌고 싶지만 회사는 가기 싫어."라든가 그런 식의 패러디가 많이 이루어졌었습니다, 유행처럼.
So it's become a kind of meme, actually, the title. What do you think of these parodies and copycats?
그렇죠. 저는 너무 재밌었고요. 그리고 그 당시에 표지도 한국판 표지가 막 힐링 이런 게 유행했을 때니까 이렇게 누워 있는 쉬고 있는 표지가 되게 많았었어요. 그래서 정말 밈처럼 책도 그 당시에는 다 누워 있는 표지였어요. 그래서 그렇게 뭐 "돈은 벌고 싶지만 회사는 가기 싫어." 뭐 "운동은 하고 싶지만 살은 빼고 싶어." 이런 식으로 밈이 됐었고, 또 하도 많이 표지나 제목을 따라하다 보니까 좀 피로도를 느낀 사람들이 많아서 제 책을 안 좋아하는 사람들도 많아요. 워낙에 호불호도 있고. 그래서 좀 어떤 고마운 분은 약간 "저평가된 책이다."라고 얘기해 주셔서 기뻤어요.
Mm. Well, when you have such a runaway success, you definitely have your haters, right?
그럼요.
But when you saw that this book would become a success, did that give you additional stress or pressure, or was it a kind of relief that, oh, people get me? I know your psychiatrist says no black and white thinking, but what are your thoughts on this?
네. 여전히 그때는 흑백논리가 심했기 때문에 너무 두려웠어요. 정말 그렇게 팔리는 걸 대표님이 "이만큼 팔리고 있다." 이렇게 보내주셨을 때 '어 이게 이렇게까지 팔릴 책이라고?' 하면서 막 이불 속에 들어가서 울고 그랬었어요. 근데 이제 돌이킬 수 없고 어쩔 수 없잖아요. 이미 20개가 넘는 나라에 번역이 됐고. 그래서 지금은 흑백논리와는 전혀 다르게 편안해요. 받아들였어요.
Mm.
그런데 제 책은 전혀 서치해 보지 않습니다.
Yes, that's very good mental health tip. Do not search about your own writing.
네.
I'm sure all the writers on this couch can attest to that. But you went on to write a second book nonetheless. So when you knew that it was a success, did that change the way you wrote the second book? Were you more careful, or were you more liberated to say, well, I've already shared so much about my life. I don't mind sharing more.
오히려 더 자유로워졌어요. 1권에서 조금 자극적인 표현들을 약간 순화하려고 했다면, 왜냐면 잘 될지 모르고 또 어떤 사람들한테는 트리거가 될 수가 있으니까 조심했던 부분들을 그리고 1권을 보지 사람들이 이거는 많이 안 보는 경우가 많거든요, 한국에서는. 네. 그래 가지고 이거는 좀 더 가감 없이 저의 자해라든지 이런 민감한 내용들도 더 날것으로 담았습니다.
The thing about the second book also that I would like to point out is Se-hee was kind enough to write a content warning for the second book because she is more free and she is even more candid than she was in the first book about certain things like suicide ideation or self-harm or eating disorders. And I just really, really appreciate the care that she took for the readers in that sense. It is a darker book than the first book, but I think it was very revealing and very helpful for me personally. I really, really, really loved the second book and how it came out.
Thank you.
Anton, you're probably the closest reader of Se-hee's books, given that you're the translator. Being so close to, as you said, the second book is so much more revealing, so much more vulnerable. Was it difficult in that sense? And did you ever feel like you wanted to reach out to Se-hee while you were translating this book?
Well, the thing about Se-hee in Korean, which I hope I expressed in English, is that she is such an excellent writer. And I mean, she's professionally trained. She studied creative writing in university, and she was, a social media manager as her profession before she became a full-time writer. And the thing about writing for social media is that you have to be very concise and precise and have an extremely controlled form, and Se-hee has that. So she is an excellent stylist as a prose stylist. So to me, even though she is writing about these things, she has such a precise control over her language that it was actually reassuring. It's like, oh, this is a person who is very honest with her thoughts and can regulate her thoughts and can process her thoughts because she is very just an intelligent person who is capable of using language this way and processing her emotions and thoughts this way. And so her assurance on the page was really what assured me that, oh, she's going to be okay. She is processing it the way that she should be. And I think it's that kind of assurance that is so comforting for people who are reading this book.
와우. 저 너무 감사한 게 제 감정을 정확하게 언어로 표현하고 싶어서 노력을 했는데 그거를 바로 알아주셔서 알아주실 것 같았지만 그게 너무 감사하고 오늘 너무 자존감이 올라가는 날인데요.
It's very important to me that Se-hee gets recognized as a very good writer because, yes, there are parodies and there are copycats of the books, but this book is not simply just a bunch of transcripts where no writing went into it.
Right.
A lot of writing went into the book, structurally, also stylistically, every single line. There's so much care has been put into the writing of this book. And it kind of always irks me when I see, the occasional review where they don't get it, where they're like, oh, she's just, talking about what happened with her psychiatrist. No,
Right.
a lot of writing,
Right.
a lot of assurance and skill and care and aesthetics went into the writing of this book. And that's what I try to convey with my translations, and that's what I hope translates to the reader.
너무 감동이고 감사하고 잘 표현해 주셔서 이렇게 성공적으로 해주셔서 또 잘 되기도 했고 그래서 진짜 너무 감사해요.
I'm really glad this first meeting, the first day that both of you are seeing each other, has turned out to be actually quite moving for the both of you. Well, I want to talk about this book forever, but I also want to be kepo, that is nosy, about the both of you. So I'm going to ask some rapid fire questions. Just tell me your answer quickly, and I'm sure our viewers will be very interested as well. Okay, firstly, maybe Se-hee first. Where is the best place to get tteokbokki in South Korea?
홍대 또보겠지 떡볶이.
Okay, so everyone, please, this is going to be the next tteokbokki hotspot, so get in queue. Anton, what about you?
Oh, I love tteokbokki in Hongdae. If a lot of people seem to like Shindangdong tteokbokki, I lived in Shindangdong, but yeah, but it's very different from like the normal Korean tteokbokki. It's like not as spicy, so maybe people who can't handle the spicy, maybe Shindangdong tteokbokki will be better for them.
Okay, next question. We know Se-hee's comfort food. Anton, what is your comfort food?
Well, I also like tteokbokki, as I say in each of the biographies, translator biographies for these two books. I lived in Ethiopia as a child, so I love injera, Ethiopian food.
Oh.
Yeah, whenever I'm in a foreign country, in a foreign city, I always look for an Ethiopian restaurant. So
What is that? What is that like? What does it taste like?
Well, Ethiopian injera is it's like a sourdough bread that's flat, and then you rip off some of the flat bread, and then you pick up some of the sauces and you eat it with your hands.
Oh, wow.
It's very delicious. It tends to be vegan and vegetarian, very healthy for you, and it's the only food I can eat every day.
Nice. Both of you are in Singapore for the Singapore Writers Festival. I'm sure you must have had some time to go around and eat as well. Favorite meal in Singapore?
저는 정말 싱가포르 오기 전에도 그렇고 와서도 그렇고 카야 토스트를 정말 사랑합니다.
Where's the best kaya toast?
근데 지금 싱가포르에서 아직 못 먹었어요.
Okay, then you have to go and eat the kaya toast.
네,
You have to, yes.
바로 끝나고 갈 거예요.
Yes, I'll tell you after. Anton?
Peranakan food?
Oh, Peranakan food.
Peranakan, thank you.
Yes.
Peranakan food. So Shanna Tan took me to a restaurant a couple of days ago, the night I arrived. And we had at a place called Veranda.
Okay.
And I've never had Peranakan food before, but I've heard about it. And it was so delicious and filling and wonderful. We had 2 bottles of wine, got drunk. So yeah, that was really, really, it's really delicious and fun, and I can't wait to have it again.
I can tell that Se-hee's wanting to eat some of that as well.
맞아요.
Now let's talk a bit about books. I want you to play book therapists for a while. What would you recommend to someone who is feeling burnt out from work and life?
제가 제목이 두더지와 여우와 소년의 말. 그건 무해해요. 어떤 페이지를 펼쳐도 너무 사랑스럽고 좋은 정말 무해한 문장들로 가득해서 아침에 일어났을 때 기분이 안 좋거나 그리고 또 번아웃으로 막 힘들고 많이 지쳐 있을 때 펼쳐서 정말 그냥 부담스럽지 않게 몇 페이지씩 이렇게 펼쳐서 보면은 굉장히 마음 편안해져요.
Anton?
Well, I think if you're feeling burnout, you should go on a vacation
That's fair.
and not read a book.
Great.
But once you're on vacation,
Yes.
if you want to read a book that will relax you or help you think about burnout, there is some discussion of burnout in I Want to Die, but I Still Want to Read Tteokbokki in the second book. Se-hee is too modest to promote her own book, but I am not. So I will promote the book. And yeah, I think it deals with a lot of like how to deal with workplace pressure and really like when you should quit. Because sometimes I feel like sometimes we need to quit. Like it's just, for our own mental health and people think that, their world will collapse if they don't have their job anymore. But sometimes, I don't know, it's good to walk away from toxic situations.
너무 공감합니다. 저는 그냥 단지 책만 생각했었는데 진짜 중요한 말이라고 생각해요. 내가 나를 알고 내가 언제 그만둘 거고 그리고 앞으로는 뭘 할 거고 이런 걸 계속 생각하고 계획하고 하는 것들 책 읽는 것보다 중요하죠. 번아웃 때.
Okay, since it's the first time that the both of you are meeting, I also want to give a chance for both of you to ask each other a question. So maybe Se-hee, you can start. What question would you like to ask Anton?
전 안톤님의 일상이 궁금해요.
I'm very boring.
Oh.
I get up and then I have coffee with my spouse, and I go to work, and then I translate. I watch a little Netflix, and then I come home and I have dinner with my spouse, and then and that's it. Yeah, it's very, very boring life. Yeah.
그래도 꼭 하는 습관 이런 건 있나요?
I wish I was more exciting, but I always watch something when I'm eating. It's a very bad habit, but yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Anton?
So, because Se-hee is she's such a clear writer that all throughout my translation, I really had no questions about like what was going on, and I didn't have to ask her any questions about the book. It's only with bad writers that I have to ask questions about what is going on here. But Se-hee, for her, she's such a good writer that it's very clear to me what she's writing. So I didn't really have any questions. I do want to thank her for allowing me to hide the gender of her partner in the book, because I thought, well, she's very careful about not revealing, whether the psychiatrist is a man or a woman, or whether the, like the gender of like any of the people in the book. And she does for some of the people, but not really. And I thought, this is a very, very nice way for people to kind of like imagine, and it gives people space to imagine what the people might be like. It's only today during this interview where I learned that the psychiatrist is a man. So that's a really interesting, because I thought, maybe it's a woman, maybe it's a man. And so, yeah, but I really don't have questions.
No questions?
Because she's such a good writer, really, and she's so clear. And again, it's only the bad writers where I have questions, but the good writers, no.
저는 오히려 완벽한 번역자라고 생각해요. 제 의도를 완벽하게 이해하고 적용했어요. 그러니까 질문이 없었겠죠. 너무 대단합니다, 진짜. 감사해요.
Well, all the questions and answers are in there, but I will ask a question on your behalf since you've abdicated the question. In the book, you mentioned that you also write short stories. Will we see any of your short stories in the future?
사실 그 소설을 써서 보냈는데 편집자분이 손가락이 골절되셨다는 거예요. 그래서 나중에 연락을 주겠다고 하셨는데 한 2달째 연락이 없으세요. 그래서 혹시 반려당했을까 봐 두려움에 떨고 있으니 행운을 빌어주세요.
Oh, definitely wishing you luck. I'm sure the readers will be very interested to see what your voice is like as a short story writer. Maybe as a final question before we wrap things up, tell us a bit, since your editors have not gotten back yet. Oh, let us hear about it. What are you thinking about in your short stories? What are you writing about? Can you give us a teaser?
정말 조금 알려드릴게요. 하지만 정말 핵심인데요. 제목이 바르셀로나의 유서입니다. 하지만 제가 그냥 정한 제목이고요.
Okay.
내용은 바르셀로나는 굉장히 항상 밝고 함성 소리, 막 축구 경기 이래서 새벽까지 다 이렇게 밝고 이런 분위기인데 그와는 상반된 인물이 나올 예정이에요. 결국 저는 부끄럽지만 제 얘기밖에 못하는 것 같아요. 그래서 아마 오토픽션이 될 것 같은데 최대한 어떤 다른 타인에 대한 피해 없이 굉장히 저를 파고드는 이야기를 쓰고 싶어요. 끝장을 보고 싶어요. 좀 심형까지 다다를 수 있게.
It sounds great. I think we can all look forward to your short stories in the future. And I'm not sure, Anton, would you translate it?
I would love to translate it. And I was thinking, I mean, it will be accepted by her Korean editor, but if for some weird reason it's not, it doesn't have to be published in Korea first. We can publish it in English first. We will find a publisher for you.
Thank you so much.
Publishers in English, please listen to this episode, because you are getting an exclusive here about publishing best-selling author Baek Se-hee's first collection of short stories in English and translated by Anton Hur, no less. It's been really great to speak to the both of you today. Happy first meeting. I would love to talk about this forever, but I think this is as much time as we have for tteokbokki and therapy today. So if you enjoyed this conversation, tell me in the comments if you have read Se-hee's therapy memoir and what you think of the buzz around the book. If you have not, well, get the book. Or just tell me your go-to place for tteokbokki. So thank you for joining me today to talk tteokbokki and therapy with Baek Se-hee and Anton Hur. For more exciting book and arts content, follow the Straits Times arts team, and until next time. Thank you so much. I'd love to
Thank
get
you so
you to sign the books.
much.
Yes. Se-hee. Anton. If you have a special message for our readers, that's also welcome.
All right, thank you. But I'll make it Singaporean by saying thank you, La.
Thank you, La.
How's your Singlish, Anton?
I'm fairly familiar with it. Right, yeah, because when I lived in Bangkok, I had so many Singaporean friends. I can't quite speak in it, but I do really love listening to it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's really nice. I like Singlish a lot. Se-hee has such nice handwriting.
잘 쓰죠?
Yeah. Wow.